What's up everyone, Darcblade here with another episode in my Guide in Destiny series. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at the Gunslinger Hunter subclass. Now remember that the builds I use in these videos are general builds that work best for me, and they might not work as well for you. Also, the damage numbers I quote are for PvP, as levels are balanced, while in PvE, numbers are higher or lower depending on your gear, level and so on. Lastly, the builds I use in these videos are aimed at endgame content Destiny has to offer. The Gunslinger Hunter is a solar based class. They are experts in precision combat. With a steady hand, the Gunslinger can rip through targets at range before opponents even have a chance to reach them. Now moving on to talk about the 3 grenade abilities in the Gunslinger's arsenal. The first is the Incendiary Grenade. This is an explosive grenade that catches enemies on fire, causing additional damage over time on foes caught in the blast. The grenade has a short fuse, so it won't explode on contact. It deals 115 damage in PvP over a 7 meter radius, after which foes caught in the blast and who are still alive will take a further 40 damage for 2.5 seconds whilst in PvP. The grenade has a decent blast radius and decent damage. It also comes with a nice damage over time effect. There are no real major downsides to this grenade, but with that being said, in PvP throw the grenade at opponents' feet for the best result. The next grenade is the Swarm Grenade. This is a grenade that when it impacts on surfaces, releases multiple drones that seek enemies that come into proximity with them. This grenade does not have a blast radius as such. The damage can vary with the Swarm Grenade, as each drone hits for 7 damage up to 2 times while in PvP. If all drones were to hit a target, it would deal around 189 damage in PvP. The pros for this grenade is that it can be used as a great deterrent, allowing you to block off paths from foes in both PvE and especially in PvP. It can also be used as a detection tool, as you can see when the drones start to move, indicating the presence of an opponent. The cons are though that it does have low damage. The final grenade is the Tripmine Grenade. This explosive grenade sticks to surfaces and detonates when enemies pass through or nearby its laser trigger. It is thrown similar to the Titan Spike and Lightning grenades. It feels like it has some weight to it. The grenade also comes with fall off damage, so foes closer to the grenade when it detonates will take the most damage. In theory, the damage of the Tripmine Grenade is 160 damage in PvP. It will deal an additional 65 damage if the grenade is actually stuck to a foe. The blast radius of the Tripmine Grenade is 12 meters. It can also be used to block off areas from foes in both PvE and PvP, although the foes in PvE normally just walk into the Tripmine Grenade. With this in mind, the real pros for this grenade are its high damage and blast radius. However, the cons are that it can be awkward to set up, or you need to be very accurate in order to stick the tripmine to an opponent. Moving on to talk about the jumping abilities available to the Gunslinger. Your main jumping ability is Double Jump. This ability gives the Gunslinger a second jump after leaving the ground. Use this wisely, as you can either press it directly after jumping for great height, or delay the second jump for greater distance whilst in the air. Double Jump can be enhanced in various ways. The first enhancement is Better Control. This gives Double Jump better directional control whilst airborne. The second enhancement is Triple Jump. This allows you to jump a third time when using Double Jump. The third enhancement is Higher Jump. This upgrades the Double Jump to give you even greater height with your jumps. The Gunslinger's super ability is the Golden Gun. When activated, the Gunslinger will summon a flaming pistol that will obliterate enemies with solar light. During the activation animation, the camera will pan out into third person. However, be careful as you can still be killed during this animation. Once you have the solar hand cannon in your hand, you can move around normally until your super energy depletes. During this time, you will have 3 golden gun shots to use, although you can have more or less depending on your gear choice. In PvP, all of these shots are lethal. However, in PvE, depending on which foes you target, it can deal either lethal or only heavy damage to them. The damage from the Golden Gun does have drop off, meaning that foes at great distance won't take as much damage. However, this is rarely a problem in PvP. The Golden Gun works best with preparation. Activating it before going into dangerous areas usually yields the best results. Unlike other class supers in the game, the Golden Gun rewards careful aiming and requires a little more precision to work well. The Golden Gun can be enhanced in various ways. The first enhancement is Deadeye. This significantly increases the accuracy of Golden Gun. This boosts your accuracy when it comes to locking onto foes when aiming down sights. This works well in PvP more than PvE, as in PvE you normally have plenty of time to set up shots. However, this enhancement becomes less useful the better you get at playing the Gunslinger. The second enhancement is Combustion. If you kill a foe with a Golden Gun shot, it will cause them to explode. The explosion from the dead foe deals 120 damage over a 5 meter radius in PvP. This can be great in PvE to deal massive AoE damage, great for taking out groups of weaker foes like thralls. This also gives the Golden Gun similar explosive damage to what the Warlock and Titan are capable of, albeit on a smaller scale. In PvP, Combustion is generally less useful, as players in PvP rarely group up for this enhancement to trump the others. The explosion is not enough to kill an opponent in PvP, thus the follow-up shot is wasted in terms of damage, unless it was your last Golden Gun shot. The third enhancement is Gunfighter. This reduces the cooldown of the Golden Gun, allowing it to be used more often. This takes 30 seconds off the cooldown, lowering it to 4 minutes before you add on any intellect bonuses. With high intellect, you can gain your Golden Gun super very quickly. Deadeye helps players aim, a bonus in PvP, while Combustion helps deal more damage in PvE. But Gunfighter is the perpetually more useful enhancement here. It gives you more opportunities to eliminate key targets in PvE and more enemy guardians in PvP. The Gunslinger Hunter's melee ability is the throwing knife. Throwing knife is how it sounds. When you're at distance from an opponent, the Gunslinger will throw a knife towards them. The knife has no set distance, but of course gravity will take effect on such an item and lead to drop off. With this in mind, if you're using the throwing knife at distant targets, aim higher than you normally would. The throwing knife deals 100 damage while in PvP. However, it rewards precision damage, increasing the damage from 100 to 130 while in PvP. The throwing knife is a great backup ability. After you've run dry with your weapon, a handy throwing knife can save you, and means you don't have to get into melee range too. However, you should not rely on the throwing knife, especially in PvP. It is more effective in PvE, as foes are slower and you get to set up precision kills more easily. This all being said, if you're within 4 meters from an opponent, then the Gunslinger will not use the throwing knife. Instead, they will perform a simple melee attack with the knife. The throwing knife can be enhanced in various ways. The first enhancement is Circle of Life. When you kill an opponent with the throwing knife while Golden Gun is active, then it will extend the duration of the Golden Gun. The extension is not huge, but it can help the uptime of Golden Gun. This is more useful in PvE than PvP, as getting a knife kill in PvP only works on weakened opponents. Circle of Life will also give you +1 armor. The second enhancement is Incendiary Blade. When the throwing knife hits an opponent, the target will be set alight, dealing additional damage over time. The Incendiary Blade, on top of its normal damage, will deal an additional 25 damage over 2.5 seconds. This is probably the most useful enhancement that the throwing knife can have. It also gives the throwing knife a flat damage increase. The third enhancement is Knife Juggler. This allows precision kills, i.e. headshots, to immediately reset the cooldown of your throwing knife. This is a high risk, high reward enhancement. It will also make you feel like a badass. This enhancement is much easier to take advantage of in PvE than PvP. Foes in PvP are normally too quick. However, pulling off chains of headshots with the throwing knife is a more reasonable task in PvE, especially if you go for weak or weakened targets. This option eliminates the need for high strength in your gear. Next, moving on to the ability modifiers. Ability modifiers are found in the 6th and 8th column of the talent tree. Ability modifiers are split into 2 tiers. For the Gunslinger Hunter's tier 1 you have the following. The first enhancement is Scavenger. When you pick up ammo from the floor, it will reduce the cooldown of your grenade and throwing knife. This is about 10 to 15% of your cooldown per ammo box. This works great for PvE based content, as there is a lot more ammo lying around when compared to PvP. This is not a bad choice, especially if you lack both discipline and strength in your gear. The second enhancement is Keyhole. This allows the Golden Gun to over-penetrate foes, allowing targets behind them to be hit as well. This can work well when combined with Combustion in PvE, giving you great AoE options. It also works well in PvP, especially on smaller maps or at choke points where foes will funnel through. The third enhancement is Gunslinger's Trance. This allows precision kills to increase a weapon's stability. This buff can also stack up to 3 times. The bonus is 20 stability per stack for 15 seconds. This also gives you great control over a weapon and works amazingly with weapons that lack stability. This works well in both PvE and PvP. In PvE, it's easier to find and chain headshots, keeping the buff going for long periods. However, when faced with ultras with no adds in the area, then this buff can be wasted. In PvP, even with 1 stack, the 15 seconds is a lengthy buff that will last long enough for you to find another PvP adversary. For tier 2 you have the following. The first enhancement is Chain of Woe. After landing a precision kill, you will gain a buff that increases your reload speed. This, like Gunslinger's Trance, stacks up to 3 times. The buff is a plus 20 to your reload speed per stack. Unlike Gunslinger's Trance though, if you hit the reload cap, it will give you a further 5, 10 or 15% bonus to the reload beyond the cap for each stack that you have. This enhancement, when combined with Gunslinger's Trance, turns the Gunslinger into a class that is great for sustained damage, especially in PvE. In PvE, it's easier to keep both enhancement buffs going for longer, meaning more damage the longer the fight goes on. Chain of Woe can still work well in PvP, but it doesn't shine like it does in PvE. The second enhancement is Over the Horizon. This increases the range of the golden gun. This does not actually increase the range of the gun per se, it essentially removes the damage drop off of your golden gun. This allows you to snipe at targets with your golden gun even if they are a fair distance away, with no difference in damage. This works well for guardians who fight at long ranges. It also gives you +1 to your agility. The third enhancement is Gambler's Dagger. This gives your throwing knife melee attack an additional charge, or in this case a second knife. These 2 knives can be used in quick succession for burst damage. The recharge rate though of the second knife is twice as long as the first one. Having the additional knife works well if you are using the knife juggler buff. Having the additional knife works well if you are using the knife juggler enhancement. It basically gives you a quick extra try if you miss. This can be useful in PvP, PvE, and for low strength gear sets. Just remember that when combined with the Incendiary Blade, that the dot does not stack, so save the second blade till the dot has worn off. Next are the passive abilities. These are modifiers to your base stats that include your armor, recovery, and agility. These are found in the 5th and 7th column of the talent tree. Now I would say these are down to personal preference at the end of the day. Again, these are divided into 2 tiers. In tier 1 you have the following. Option 1 is Path Forgotten. This gives you +2 armor and +2 agility. Option 2 is Path Forbidden. This gives you +2 recovery and +2 agility. Option 3 is Path Unknown, and this gives you +2 armor and +2 recovery. With tier 2 you have the following. Option 1 is Way of the Drifter. This gives you +2 armor, +1 recovery and +2 agility. Option 2 is Way of the Fearless. This gives you +5 armor. And finally, option 3 is Way of the Nomad. This gives you +4 recovery and +1 agility. Now in Destiny you can have multiple specs, and you should always use what works best for you. I tend to spec the Gunslinger Hunter as follows. With the grenades I tend to favour Tripmine Grenade over the others, due to its high damage. Incendiary grenades are not a bad choice either if you hate the Tripmine Grenade. I will rarely take the Swarm Grenade as I dislike how the grenade works, and more often than not, it deals very little damage. With Double Jump, I tend to take Triple Jump, as it works well in both PvE and PvP. It also gives your jumping ability a lot more versatility. With the Golden Gun, I tend to take Gunfighter. It gives you more access to your Golden Gun, which in all honesty is the best aspect of the Gunslinger. Combustion is okay for PvE, but Gunfighter just gives you a lot more golden gun uses. As for the throwing knife, I tend to take Incendiary Blade, but I cannot deny how awesome it feels to pull off chains of headshots using the throwing knife's knife juggler enhancement. With the ability modifiers, I tend to favour Keyhole or Gunslinger's Trance in tier 1. Both are good, but I do tend to prefer Keyhole for PvP and Gunslinger's Trance for PvE. With tier 2, I go with Chain of Woe or Over the Horizon. Chain of Woe works well for me in PvE, as the buff can be sustained for longer. Over the Horizon gets picked when on long-ranged maps or sometimes in PvP, just to get rid of that annoying damage drop off from your golden gun. This all being said though, I will occasionally take Jugglers Dagger, just because I do find this enhancement quite fun. With the passives I tend to balance armor, recovery and agility as best I can, with armor and agility being slightly higher than the recovery. With the Gunslinger I will normally always stack intellect, followed by discipline and finally strength. Strength I feel is less needed on this class, as the throwing knife is not your go-to source of damage. Intellect is top, as the golden gun is the most useful damage source for the Gunslinger. Overall, the Gunslinger Hunter is a precision player's dream. Their abilities are all focused on range and being accurate. In the right hands, this class can shine before an opponent can even get close to them. This comes at a cost though, as the class tends to lack abilities that perform well in close combat. Golden gun can still be used at close range, but there is an increased chance of missing shots if used in panic. If you do want to get into close combat, make sure you bring a weapon that is good at this distance, like the shotgun. In PvE, their buffs can allow you to lay down continuous fire on foes. In PvP, a gunslinger with their super is not something you want to come across in a firefight. If you can read the battlefield, then this class can take down key targets and threats at distance, making them very dangerous and deadly. Anyway, I've been Darcblade, bringing you my guide to the Gunslinger Hunter as I guide you through Destiny. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe, like for more.